Hello everybody and welcome to another video of World of Tanks. I recently bought myself the Super Pershing. It was on a, admittedly, very slight sale for Veterans Weekend, and before I go any further, I've got a bit of a sore throat, so excuse me if you hear me drinking quite a bit, or if my voice sounds a bit hoarse. Nay. Yeah. So I bought myself a Super Pershing. And a lot of people really don't like this tank anymore and would have chosen the other Tier 8 premiums, like the YAG-88 or the IS-6, although I think the IS-6 is just made of fuel tank. But I I like to pick the tanks that other people don't, and it's not a great trait because it means I pick the underpowered tanks. But I don't know. I like to stand out. What can I say? And nobody's standing out by playing a Tier 8 premium. But I needed credits, and by far the best way to get one is to play a Tier 8 premium. This is a mediocre game, and it made me over 90,000 credits. So, yeah. So the Super Pershing, it's got this spaced armor on the front of the turret there. You can see it's spaced there, and what you can't really see as easily is that it's also spaced on the front of the tank, on the lower and upper plate there. That is recovered or stolen armor from Panthers when these things were actually prototyped. I'm not sure if they ever entered service. It was just, welded on Panther armor on the front of a regular Pershing, which rather conveniently is right there. You can see it's exactly the same tank, except for that spaced armor on the front of the turret and the front of the actual the actual frontal hull armor, which makes this thing much less vulnerable than the regular Pershing. It's got a reasonable gun, decent rate of fire, decent penetration. It's 170 penetration, and of course, because it's a premium tank, the gold ammo penetration is much, much higher, but I don't find myself using very much of it. So let's actually get this going. There's, of course, defense on the Siegfried line, and there's a lot of red on our team. We do end up winning it, but I'm not actually there for the win, because, spoiler alert, I die. But before I do, I get some really manly brawling in. The best kind of brawling. So obviously, in this tank, you want people to be shooting at your turret, because it's very difficult to penetrate, except for that giant weak spot thing there on the front, which is some kind of targeting thing, I think, this thing. I'm not really sure, but it's definitely a weak spot of the turret. I get shot around there quite a lot. And I find that this turret, let's go into my view. This tank kind of actually depends on enemy players not knowing how to deal with you. It's very, very polarized. Half of the time, you'll be able to completely dominate someone. They'll just be bouncing every single shot on you, and then other players, they will never bounce one. Because like most tanks that have very strong armor, they also have some fairly obvious weak spots that can be exploited pretty heavily by your enemy. If you go hull down in this, you can do pretty well, but obviously this isn't an easy map to go hull down on, especially not in defense. So I'm showing my arse over to the hill there, which is an awful idea, and I quickly realize that and don't do it and move back over here instead. Excuse me. So this T-29 is an example of someone who doesn't know what to do, as opposed to that VK-4005 as an example of someone who does. So T-29 is going to come around, shoot him in the lower glacis, I think. I mean, you can shoot the hull of a T-29 for it pretty much anywhere. It's not particularly strong. And then right in the front there, and I'm just going to lock hulls with him. And he's going to keep shooting my turret, which obviously I'm okay with. And I need to get my my hull less visible for that 4502 over there. So while he's moving back, I manage that. See that T-29 there? I'm pretty sure he didn't penetrate me once. If we just skip back to the start of that fight, one more of those. I wish the replay system was better for this. Okay, here we go. For some reason, it's running as slow as possible here. Let's go through this. Right. The 4501 has penetrated me. T29. Bounce. And... another? Bounce. Yeah, see... At that kind of range, he should be able to shoot right in my weak spot and just do damage. And I'm not sure if that was him or the 4501, so let's just take the camera out and watch that again. This is probably kind of boring, but I want to show this tank because this is cool. I like it. So it's just before I take him out here. There's his bounce, and that damaging hit was... that was from the 45, yeah, okay. So, after that, taking cover behind this, showing too much of that. See, this 4501 has, I don't think, failed to penetrate me yet, because he's been shooting at my weak spots. You can see the scrapes, at least 2 hit marks right on that flat panel there, and now he's pretty much got me here. I'm struggling, so I tried to do the same with him, and I do manage to get a shot in, but yeah, he's going to penetrate me every single shot. Where the T29 isn't, and this is, I mean, you know, partially down to the gun, but not entirely. I think that there's more in play than just the difference in penetration of the gun, and I'm actually not sure on the numbers, but I'm fairly certain the 4502 has higher penetration than the T29. But my problem with playing a tank like the T29, and in fact a lot of tanks, this is a mini rant. Since you can buy gold ammo with credits, you would be shocked and appalled by the percentage of players, mainly at tier 8+, that are firing gold only. It's horrific. I mean, if everybody's firing standard ammo, heavily armored tanks like the T28, T95, and things like, examples not coming to mind, you know, they're big bouncy machines, but so many gold rounds are being shot, and there's so much penetration on those gold rounds that it completely negates it. And I think that that's part of the reason why most tanks are chosen based on their gun, not their armor, in World of Tanks, at least in my experience, because armor barely matters at this point, because there's so much gold ammo being thrown around that you can have like, you know, the 250 frontal plate armor of like the T28, for example, American tank destroyer. That's got pretty good armor surfaces. I mean, it's got that stupid flat front plate that's about 204 millimeters, I think. You're going to get penetrated a lot there, but up on the hull, it's reasonably well sloped, 200 odd millimeters of armor. But anyone in a tier, like, you know, 7, I mean, a couple of tier 6s can penetrate you with gold ammo there, or the ARL-44 standard ammo with 212, that'll penetrate you there, to be fair, but anyone can do it with gold ammo, and it's so annoying, because if you're running around with your stocks full of gold, you don't have to aim. You can just throw shells at really heavily armored targets, and they'll go straight in. Okay, mini rant finished. Super Pershing. That reasonably shitty game was worth almost 100,000 credits. Buy a tier 8 premium. Oh my goodness, there's so many credits. Ugh.